Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Katie Cross. I'm the Managing Director of the Center for Energy Development and the Global Environment here at the Fuqua School of Business. Really excited to have you all here today. We have an in-person audience here in the classroom, and also welcome to our online audience. We're really glad you're here. For those of you who are here in person, I hope you'll stick around after our panel and join us for a reception. We're just going to go right upstairs and out onto the patio for drinks and networking and hors d'oeuvres. So please join us for that after the panel discussion. I want to thank our partners in hosting this event tonight. So as I mentioned, I'm with the EDGE Center, which is here at Fuqua, but we are hosting this event in partnership with the Duke University Energy Initiative and the Nicholas Institute for Environmental Policy Solutions. And I especially want to thank my collaborators, my colleagues, Stacy Peterson, Sue Ellen Aldina, and Braden Wellborn for their perennial collaboration and their leadership in helping us create a truly world-class energy program here at Duke University. As all of our students here know, but for any of those of you who are watching, if you're not already familiar with the amazing energy education offerings here at Duke, our undergraduate degrees, our graduate degrees, extracurriculars, research thought leadership, I hope you'll go and check out energy.duke.edu to learn more about our programs, of which this is just one of many in the year. This is the 8th year that we have hosted the annual Women in Energy event at Duke. And I want to say thank you to all of you, students, alumni, faculty, and industry practitioners of all genders for joining us here tonight. The goal of our event is to highlight the perspectives of women-identified and women-aligned people in the energy sector to talk about their careers and their experiences working in different capacities in the sector. So we've got 4 great alumni here to speak with you today. I know you'll learn a lot from them and as they talk about their career journeys and their perspectives on the industry. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming our moderator for tonight's event, a woman who I greatly admire and feel lucky to have opportunities like these to collaborate with, the Executive Vice Dean and Senior Associate Dean for Academics at the Nicholas School of the Environment, Dr. Lori Benier.
Thank you. Away the second title when they gave me the new one, but I'll keep them both. Thank you, Katie, and the EDGE Center and the Energy Initiative for inviting me to moderate this event. I'm delighted to be here with you this evening, and I'm delighted to introduce our 4 panelists. So I'm going to go clockwise how I see them on the screen, at least. So Soli Shin got her MEM degree at Duke at the Nicholas School in 2018, and she's currently the Assistant Program Manager for the Electric Vehicle Program with Con Edison. To her right is Anna Chavis. She is the Senior Manager for Development at Clearway Energy Group. Then in the bottom right corner, we have Serena Agaba Rajuna, who is a partner at Energy Markets and Regulatory Practice at White and Case LLP. I forgot to mention degrees. Serena got her JD at Duke Law in 2013, and Anna was an MEM MBA, or MEMBA, as we like to refer to them, in 2013. And last but not least, we have Tabitha Vigliotti, who got an MEM MPP. We don't have quite as cute a name for that, back in 2014, and apparently endured statistics with me. She is the Senior Manager for Customer Success at Uplight. So welcome to the 4 panelists. Thank you for making time to be with us today and for our students to have a chance to learn from you. So by way of introduction, I'm going to ask each of you to just spend a few minutes telling us your story. Starting from your undergraduate degree, what path led you to your current role, and what do you do in your current role? So Soli, why don't we start with you?
Thank you so much, everyone, for being here, and thank you to my fellow panelists, and it's always good to see you, Lori. I can start off with just saying that I had a very unconventional background when it comes to energy. I studied poetry as an undergraduate, and so it really didn't align with any of the quantitative or technical analysis that I needed to succeed in energy. And so I needed to go to grad school for that. Luckily, I also endured statistics and econ. No, I'm sorry, just econ, right? Yeah, statistics.
Had me for
Statistics
econ,
was
yeah.
somebody else. I did endure my first econ and my first stats class when I was at the ripe age of 26. So for any of you sitting there that had never taken those classes or don't feel proficient, I think that that's totally okay. Currently, what I do in program management in general is to facilitate a program. And so speaking from the utility perspective, my background in policy, certainly the ability to read fast and digest problems and pick apart solutions and scenario plan, all of that stuff, which isn't technically so, I think, as quantitative as you might think. Those skills were extremely helpful in developing my success here. And so I just want to say that I think I may have overheard some people talking about Dahlia's modeling class and some of the other quite rigorous courses that are available at the graduate level. And I certainly didn't feel as though I needed to have quote unquote mastered that in order to succeed where I am now. So happy to chat further later on during this hour or so, but that's me.
Thank you so much, Soli. Anna.
Hello. So I'll echo Soli and thank Katie and the Fuqua team for the opportunity to be here. As Lori said, I was a MEM MBA at Duke and graduated in 2013. And I guess I'll preface my career path story by saying that I've always been a tree hugger at heart. I majored in environmental studies at Middlebury College, and after graduating chose to go to an environmental consulting firm, ICF, because I thought it would give me a good kind of survey of the environmental career landscape. I knew I wanted to do something under the larger environmental umbrella, but was not quite sure what. And while at ICF, I realized I was most interested in renewable energy and decided that the energy field was one of the most impactful in terms of addressing climate change. So I decided to go back to school to Duke for a joint MEM MBA to kind of learn more about the industry and better position myself to enter it. So while at Duke, I had internships at Environmental Defense Funds in the Climate Corps, doing energy efficiency work, and then at the GE Renewable Energy Leadership Program, doing wind turbine marketing and strategy. And ultimately decided to take a position after graduating in solar development at NRG Energy, a large independent power producer. So I worked at NRG from 2013 when I graduated until 2017. And then in 2017, NRG spun off its renewable business to become a standalone company named Clearway Energy Group, which is where I am now. So over the past 9 years at NRG and then at Clearway, I've held a few different roles in solar development, ranging from C&I behind the meter development and origination to community solar M&A. And in my current role, I develop and diligence projects from an interconnection and permitting and engineering and real estate perspective to bring either early stage or later stage development assets to a shovel-ready stage to begin construction, either through leading diligence on M&A opportunities or leading development on greenfield opportunities.
Thank you. Serena.
Thank you, Lori. It's great to be here. My name is Serena Rajuna. My story beginning with undergrad. I also had a non-traditional path to energy. I was a psychology major at Wake Forest University. I spent my first 3 years of undergrad thinking I wanted to get a PhD in psychology. I spent a summer in a health and psychophysiology lab, loved it, but realized it was not what I was meant to do for the rest of my life. So then I realized that my dad was probably right when he said I would be an attorney from the time I was about 4 years old. But I didn't want to go straight to law school, so I actually took a deviated path. I finished undergrad and went to business school, actually, at Wake Forest, and I did their Master's of Arts in Management program, which is like the first year of an MBA with the summer experience built into a year-long externship. After that program, I left the South, moved up to Boston, and worked in finance for a couple of years. I wanted to put those hard skills to use, get some work experience before tackling law school, which was at that point the ultimate goal. After working for a couple of years, I moved back home to North Carolina and found myself at Duke, where I went to law school starting in 2010 and graduated in 2013. And how I found energy was during my 2L summer associate position. I was interning at a energy focused firm. My first project was an electric regulatory project. I will be honest with you, what I do today as an energy markets and regulatory attorney, I did not even realize was a thing when I first set foot on Duke's campus back in 2010. I kind of happened upon it, but I loved it. I wanted to be in a helping profession. I realize now that what I do impacts every industry, every aspect of life, whether we, appreciate it or take it for granted. We are able to flip the switch and the lights come on reliably and safely. And there are really great ways to make it even better for the environment. So I love what I do. I'm constantly learning. But it was taking on that first project and being open to it. I went back to Duke as a 3L and took the one energy class they offered then through the law school. There's so many more now. Kudos to Duke for expanding the programming, but that was kind of what sparked my interest. I moved to DC, went back to that firm, thought I'd do a little bit of everything for 2 years until I find my path. And my first project as a new associate was also an electric project. I loved it. The head of the practice group asked if I wanted to unofficially come out of the pool and dive into energy full steam ahead. And so from about 6 weeks in, I've been an energy regulatory attorney. My day-to-day focuses primarily on the electric sector, thermal as well as renewables. I have experience with waste to energy, solar, like Anna works with, wind, offshore wind, alternative technologies. My practice over the past few years is trending more so towards almost exclusively renewables, as well as energy transition and ESG. So again, with the wanting to be in a helping profession and loving to learn what I do, I'm constantly learning. The regulations are changing, the policy is changing, the technology is changing. So it allows me to constantly learn, to be on top of the latest and the greatest, and to continually, have that intellectual curiosity pushed to its limits. And I'm happy to share more about what being an energy regulatory attorney entails later on in our discussion. Thanks.
Thank you so much. All these career paths I could have taken. Tabitha.
Hi, I also want to say thank you so much for having me. Very excited to be here. I went to school down in Florida at the University of Florida, where I studied ecology. I wanted to be, a hard biology ecologist. I actually was a shark researcher for a while, and graduated right into the middle of the recession, which was really pleasant. And by pleasant, I mean not at all. And so I took an opportunity that I never probably would have taken. I decided to go into game ranching. And I raised white-tailed deer from babies to adults, which was relatively interesting. That was out in Texas. And then realized that was just not what I wanted to do. And I knew I wanted to go into grad school. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to study. So I moved to North Carolina and I started working in nonprofits. And I got the bug for wanting to do more than just learn about amazing things in this world, but I wanted to be a little proactive. And that's where, I was working with water nonprofits. And so I was giving testimony to the state of North Carolina about, the importance of our rivers and the health of our waterways. And so I applied for not only the policy school, the Sanford School, but also the environmental school, and started at Duke. I quickly realized that I actually loved economics and I loved using sort of business as a force for good. I treated my education kind of as a way to learn different languages. You want to speak money? Let's speak money. You want to speak passion? We can do that. You want to speak science? I can handle that too. And graduated, I did the reverse of Serena. I actually moved to Boston after North Carolina, where I worked in the utility space. And so I went to work in energy efficiency. There is a huge industry just in energy efficiency. If you ever want to talk to me about it, so much going on there. Worked in that field, mostly in the regulatory and then also evaluation and measurement space. So, how much savings do you get from installing one of those light bulbs? What's your use case? Are there non-market benefits? Is it reducing slips, trips, and falls? So really wonky kind of stuff, but I loved nerding out. And then after a couple of years, I moved into process improvement. So I worked from the meter to cash space at a utility, just kind of understanding how a utility thinks and how they make their processes. And then most recently, I moved out to Denver and I took a job with a software company using business as a force for good. Our clients are utilities, and we help people manage their energy usage or understand more about their energy and help them make wise decisions. So I'm now in the software industry, but took a very circuitous route from being a shark wrangler when I was younger.
That's great. Thank you all so much for sharing that. Next, I want to ask you, what do you find most exciting or rewarding about working in the energy sector? And maybe, Serena, I'm just going to shake it up. Serena, we'll start with you.
Sure. So what I find most exciting and rewarding is that it is a constantly changing, evolving, developing industry. What I was doing and the projects I worked on and the issues I was tackling as a first year attorney are similar, but definitely not the same as what I'm tackling now, 8 years later. There's new technology. Tabitha mentioned energy efficiency. There are new products that are entering the markets. The markets are, responding to changes, whether that's on the technological side, whether that's on just kind of like markets and economies development, looking at the global effects of development, thinking about things like climate change and clean energy and trying to transition. There's so much to learn and so much to see, and you never get bored. And I love that. My family made me promise that I would not go back for another degree and I left out one in my intro, a public policy degree. And so I swore I would not go back to school, but my workaround and my cheat is that I'm learning every single day. Whether it's, looking at policy, that's thinking about policy, looking at regulations, thinking about what are the day-to-day, practical implications for our clients, thinking about the business case and, how do I help my client solve a commercial issue while staying within the realms of the regulatory space so they don't run afoul of those, while also, making money and hopefully doing something good for society and our community. So that's what I think is most exciting. And like Tabitha highlighted, you can use an energy career in so many different spaces. And I love that. Like, I love what I do today, but the possibilities are endless if I decide I want to try something new down the road. So that really, I think, is what gets me most excited and fired up. I also love FERC, but I won't bore you guys talking about how exciting FERC is.
Thank you, Serena. Tabitha, you want to go next?
Oh, I couldn't say it better than Serena. I mean, there's just so much to learn. If you're a person that just thrives in learning new things, energy, you can build on what you already know. So you're not ever wasting your time, but you can tackle it from so many different angles. I never thought I would be in software. I am not a tech person, but I'm still learning and still able to do a lot of good here. And I get to work with people that don't necessarily have to have my same outlook on life or morals and values. And we can still move the needle. And that's really exciting for me.
All right, thank you. Soli?
Yeah, I think my answer is like a little bit more specific to my day-to-day job now. Since I work in electric vehicles, I get to be a part of a Make Ready program that changes the landscape of a city. So when we're talking about energy, you can't talk about it unless you include infrastructure. And I think that's really the most exciting part. I think in the last 5 years or so, we've seen this explosion of software, like Tabitha had mentioned, and a lot of solutions that are working with demand management and a lot of technological advances. But those technological advances need the backbone of hardware, which is massive infrastructure projects and the poles and the wires. And so for me, being a part of a program that incentivizes infrastructure build out is exciting because you can literally see it with your own eyes. And so if you're living in a city or you're living in a town that is interested in electrification, you literally get to see that physical transformation happen. And being a part of that process and being able to fund that, I think, is the most exciting part of my day.
Thank you. Anna.
I'm going to echo others. Because it's so true. It really is the constant challenge and the dynamic industry with really no 2 days being the same. From a renewable development perspective, each state, each county, each specific project is uniquely different with very nuanced challenges that require a lot of cross-functional problem solving because each problem hasn't been encountered before from a distinctive sense. So things are, kept exciting. You're always learning, to Serena's point. And then, of course, I think, as I'm sure we all agree, the opportunity to work in an industry that is, trying to save the world, because who doesn't want to do that? But, honestly, having a larger purpose to our work is inspiring.
Thank you. So this panel specifically, of course, on women in the energy sector. So do you all have any thoughts on gender diversity in the industry? Are there things you think the industry could do or things that they're already doing well to encourage more women to work in and be supported by the industry? And just as an extra question, what role can male allies play? So Tabitha, why don't we start with you this time?
I definitely see it, the landscape changing. Working in a utility, maybe it changed a little bit more slowly, but I'm seeing a lot of women at the table in the discussion. I think what folks can do to further that is we don't realize some of the biases we have in our way of thinking of what does success look like, what does a leader look like. And oftentimes we have attributed the model of what a leader should look like with a lot of traits that are inherently or more prevalent in men. The way to lead may be a little different. It doesn't mean it's less than leadership. It's just a different form of leadership. I think that will be real change to me when our paradigm of what success is it based on a model built predominantly by men?
Great answer. Solely.
Yeah, I would love to chime in and also just add that as somebody who speaks to the majority of my conversations are with contractors. And so I do get to have an external facing role within a utility. And I think 99% of them are male, often with like a very heavy Italian American accent here on the East Coast. And so it's a very specific type of person that you're working with. And sometimes like I show up to a work verification and they don't realize that the utility representative is this smallish Asian woman, and they really get thrown off guard by that. And so I had to learn a couple of tips and tricks to make myself seem more official, like having a clipboard and wearing my badge and wearing like Con Ed gear and things that I honestly my male counterparts like they don't ever have to think about, because they can show up and like people just assume when they say they're from Con Ed, like they take it at face value. While with me, they're a little bit more suspicious. And so there are a lot of things that I learned working so closely with people that are actually going out and installing the infrastructure that's needed for us to get to a cleaner energy future. But to your second question, Lori, like what can male allies do? I think that there's one thing that I've noticed as a new mom, which is that a lot of non-moms, non-birthing human beings aren't as aware of how limiting physical spaces can be sometimes. So for example, walking back into the office after remote for, I don't know, about 2 years or so, I noticed that like I don't have an easy path to like get to the lactation room and things like that. And so these aren't naturally questions that if you're not facing the situation yourself, you would ever have to think about. But even just like working in an industry that's so focused on safety, and we go through so many drills all the time, and we go through so many different other type of scenarios where you don't actually have to face a hurricane, you don't actually have to face an evacuation. I think that it could be one small step to be like, okay, if I had to put myself in the shoes of somebody who had to take care of a newborn infant immediately, what's the best path to get there? Like, is the elevator accessible? Do I have to climb over boxes, etc.? So that's just one thing that I noticed as specifically a new mom coming back to work in the energy industry.
Thanks so much, Soli. Anna.
I think, yeah, I mean, to your first question, I think gender diversity could definitely be improved significantly. I remember attending my first industry conference and just being floored by the sea of suits, not women's suits. And I haven't noticed particular change. I think things industry can do to encourage more women is, I guess, one thing that comes to mind is there's a lot of women in energy groups, industry groups, kind of taking what Fuqua has to a broader industry level that already exists, but I think that a lot of women in energy organizations don't necessarily know about. So I think companies making their employees aware of these groups' existence and advocating and supporting and empowering women to join these groups and take active roles in them could be helpful. And things like focused conferences at the professional level for women in industry, for women in energy, at larger energy conferences, having women-only lunches or specific networking events, all help to encourage women to feel kind of more comfortable in the industry, in a male-dominated industry. And then solely similar to you, because I just had a baby, this is top of mind to ensuring retention of women in energy is really companies' creation of competitive maternity leave policies, so that you're not seeing a diminishment of women at higher up levels in energy companies.
Thank you. You got snaps. Not sure you can hear the snaps, but there's snapping and clapping happening.
And pregnant lady in the back.
Serena.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll echo some of what was said and add a little bit more. What Anna said about, industry associations and organizations is spot on. I think it's great that those spaces exist, making them more accessible, making sure that they have support from their women members, but also from allies and from industry. I think is important. Something that hasn't been mentioned is getting women involved in STEM and just knowledgeable about energy earlier. Part of what I do through the American Association of Blacks in Energy is we have scholarships that are for diverse, primarily Black students, so to get them exposed to STEM fields and get them excited about energy and let them know that all of these paths that each of us on the line have found are things and opportunities that they can explore, and getting that ingrained and a part of their career trajectory and what they're thinking about earlier on, I think definitely helps. You asked, what can allies and non-women members of the industry do? I think that championing and opening doors is really huge. So I'll say, for example, a lot of times the institutional client relationship person may be a male, might be a white male in the legal field. Having that person reach out and introduce me as their new partner, to clients, inviting me to be in the conversations, making sure that your women colleagues are on the big deals, that they are, in the room when important decisions are being made. I think those are ways that men and other allies can assist. For us as women, seeking out and finding those mentors and people who look like us. I can say, as a woman and a Black woman in energy and in energy law, there are not a lot of us. In DC, I can think of maybe less than 10 other Black women, big law partners who work in energy. And DC is a very big city with a lot of attorneys. There need to be more of us. So, finding the people who look like you, who are where you want to go, seeking out those relationships and doing all you can to get to where you want to go. And then, paying it forward and helping others and trying to, help build that pipeline and be that person that's reaching back and helping other women and other minorities to accomplish their goals there. And then the last thing I'll say is that there's something that as an industry and law firms and utilities and financial institutions and every other sector as a whole has to do. And that's realize that the clients that we used to serve, the deals we used to enter into, the legal issues we used to tackle, the policy issues that we were tackling, a decade ago, 2 decades ago, 3 decades ago are not the same. If we're going to serve our clients in the best way possible, whoever that client is, you have to have a diverse team. And that includes having women on your team and having minorities on your team. And so I think just this appreciation of what used to work, and this goes to what Tabitha was saying about how we evaluate and celebrate leadership and what we think of as being the face of a leader and a leader in energy, and as someone who is successful in this space has to evolve and change as we are coming up with more diverse workspaces. Otherwise, we'll have what Anna mentioned, which is you have recruitment and maybe you have retention, but then we have to go the step further and also have advancement. We have to have the people moving up through the chain. So those are kind of what I think we can be doing and what hopefully our allies are doing and what industry as a whole needs to also be focusing on.
Great.
I'd love to.
Yeah, go right ahead.
I just want to add one thing. When we were talking about, having allies, sometimes folks don't know. Sometimes folks come from a totally different background that don't ever have exposure to some of the things the challenges that we've had. I recently got a promotion, and another woman was also, thank you. Another woman was also promoted, and we were promoted to managers. And in meetings, our boss was calling us team leads, but calling other people directors. And it was a little unfortunate not using our titles because, we worked hard for those titles and we were doing a lot of the same things that, our male counterparts who got their titles in those meetings were doing. And I chatted with the other woman and said, what do we want to do here? Because this doesn't feel good. And we brought it up to our boss and he was like, I'm so sorry. Like for me, like titles don't mean anything, but I get it now. As he actually said, as a white male, I've never had to deal with this. I am sorry, and I will use your titles. And I felt very supported, but two, because I stepped into my power, I was able to bring other people along. And I don't think he'll ever do that again with someone else. He'll bring them along. He'll be an ally. So it felt good.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. I'm just struck at this last question. This is a panel specifically about energy, but every one of the things you all said, I think just applies so broadly. Like, what do we need to be successful women or good allies for successful women? We need people to recognize that success might look slightly differently or leadership might look slightly differently. We need people to think about the spaces that we occupy. And for the love of Pete, don't go vape in the Braden, right? Don't go vape in the lactation room. It's happened.
It's not the vapor.
No, she was not the vapor. She was the one desperately trying to use it for its intended purpose while the vapor was occupied. Okay, so don't do that. Set up competitive family leave programs so that women can have children and continue to succeed, right? And open doors for people because they are talented and you want to recognize that talent. That was just phenomenal all across the board there. So thank you all for those comments. I'm curious if diversity or organizational culture in general played a role in your decision to work for your current employer and how you evaluated that as you were interviewing for the job or considering your options. So I haven't started with Anna, I believe. I've lost track of, I had a plan, I had a system and I've lost track. I think Anna.
Yeah, I don't have a particularly empowering response here, but I'll just be honest. My decision to join at that time with NRG was more driven by the leadership at the company and the vision of the company in the industry to be a kind of a visionary within the industry as an independent power producer. At the time, the CEO was a guy named David Crane, and he had made he had created an image for himself and for the company as a progressive independent power producer that was looking to do renewables and electric vehicle charging stations and behind the meter storage solutions. And that was all very exciting for me. And that vision that he had for the company was what kind of drove me to make my decision. Yeah, I guess that's what I'll say there.
Great, thank you. What about you, Serena?
So I will say that diversity was definitely something that I considered. The very first law firm where I started graduating from Duke Law was one of only 2 Black women attorneys in the entire firm out of almost 500 attorneys. And they're very great when it comes to energy work. I had a clear path there, but I did not want to have to be a unicorn. I knew I wanted to make partner at a law firm. They told me, you'll make partner if you stay here, but I didn't want to have to be the first the 20 teens going into 2020. So I lateraled to another firm where there were many more Black attorneys. There were Black attorneys in leadership roles, and that was very important to me. And that was a major factor in that move from my first firm to the second firm where I worked. Thinking about diversity outside of racial, ethnic, or gender diversity, my leap that I made in December to my current firm, White & Case, was also tied somewhat to diversity. White & Case also has a very racially and ethnically diverse partnership and attorney ranks, but it's also a very global firm. And you think about energy transition, when you think about ESG, when you think about renewables and alternative energy, having a global mindset is very critical in that. And that really stood out about the firm. But also, again, I saw women and people of color in leadership roles, and that was really important to me. Coming in and joining the partnership as a Black woman, I wanted to know that I wouldn't be the only one, and that I would be in a company that had a framework and had leadership from the top down that would encourage the work that I want to do and helping to build that pipeline and ensure that other young attorneys didn't have to look up and think that they would have to be a unicorn to succeed in the firm or within their industries. And the other thing I'll say is working in energy in particular, when we think about some of the negative effects of the energy industry, and we think about environmental justice communities, EJ communities, it is people of color, it is minorities, it is lower income communities that are disproportionately impacted. And so if you don't have an appreciation for the role that diversity plays in the energy industry, I think that you're doing yourself and the communities that you and your clients serve a disservice. And so it's something that is very important to me. And again, on the creativity, innovation, like we were talking about in the prior question, I truly believe that you get the best results for your clients. You get the most creative, innovative, kind of cutting edge results, and you get the best and most exciting deals, and you are leading the way rather than being reactive when you have diverse teams. And so that was something that was important to me for being able to build out the type of practice that I want, focused on renewables and energy transition and being mindful of EJ communities, but also just in terms of an overall work environment that will help me do the work that I want to do to make sure that hopefully you are not having to have some of these same conversations 5, 10, 15 years from now.
Tabitha?
My choice to go to Uplight was definitely predicated on respect. I felt very respected through the whole application process, felt the company respected the way it worked with its clients, but also respected its end users as well. Like, not everyone that doesn't have your same belief systems are bad. And then the more I dug into, what does the company's morals and values, stand? They're a certified B Corp, which is really focused on, transparency, accountability, and performance. So ultimately, it was a little bit larger than just, one aspect, but the holistic approach to, a human that has a lot of value and brings something to the table.
Thanks. And Soli?
I would also like to echo what Anna said. I don't have a particularly inspiring answer for this question, but I will say that the core benefit of working at a utility is that they have two things that I really admire, and I think add equity into just working in the industry. One, they have ERGs, employee resource groups, and two, they have a very clear-cut and well-documented way to evaluate your performance. And so those two things are incredibly important when it comes to, I think, one, ERG being able to find a sense of community and being sponsored at a executive level for these things being of importance and of corporate value to the company. And so it kind of, I think, creates to a certain extent a safety net for employees beyond just their daily workplaces. Secondly, I think having a very robust performance evaluation process makes it very difficult on the back end for that employer to discriminate against any part of your identification. And so it really does help, I think, being in a place that has a very rigorous and standardized way of doing things, precisely so that if you are wronged against, you have a very robust way to defend yourself, because all of that is logged year to year and has plenty of documentation to go ahead and prove if you actually did misstep or not. And so I definitely think that those are benefits to working at a utility.
Great, thank you. So let's go back and think about energy a little bit more. What kinds of skills are the most important in your current job? Is it those quantitative skills like financial modeling and analysis? Is it the people skills, communications skills, stakeholder engagement? Is it subject matter expertise? What is the most important set of skills that you use? And I think, Soli, we're back to starting with you.
I'll keep it really short. I'm going to say social, just because I interact mostly on an external level to people that are in the Con Ed territory trying to build their projects. And so these are EV charging developers, and they are trying to run their business. And so for us, obviously, we don't want to receive any sort of public complaint against us, but we also want to be good partners. And so it's very important, I think, to be able to have that social savvy, especially when you're talking to folks that have a very different background than you, and they operate on completely different timelines and on different frameworks for everything. And so I definitely want to say for this current role, it's having that social savvy.
Thanks. Anna?
Yeah, I would say some good old fashioned liberal arts education skills, communicating effectively, like working within the unknown, problem solving without precedent, and being able to know your audience and know your audience and tailor your message accordingly. Certainly, like fundamental understanding of how power markets work is helpful, and understanding not necessarily very hardcore financial modeling, but kind of understanding financial metrics and key drivers of a pro forma in order to manage your project effectively. But I think ultimately when both interviewing for a job and then also performing at a job, definitely the social skills.
Serena?
I'll echo everything that Soli and Anna said. I'll also add the issue spotting. Sometimes when you're operating in a new sphere, you might not know, there might not be all of the rules and regulations in place, but being able to identify based on past experiences, issues that they could be roadblocks, that could be challenges, that could be hurdles, getting ahead of those, like Anna said, translating and communicating between various stakeholders. I have internal clients, I have external clients, I have interactions with regulators. So being able to meet each audience where they are and effectively communicate. And, of course, there's, the nitty gritty of rules and regulations and case law. But I think some of these other all-encompassing skills, the problem solving, the communicating, the translating, are really, it's easy to read. You can read a case and figure out what the holding is, but being able to effectively communicate that and figure out how that applies to the situation your client is in and how to help them accomplish their goal with the least resistance possible is the more challenging part of it.
Thank you. Tabitha?
I 100% back what my fellow panelists have said. So I'm not going to belabor those topics because I fully support them. I think the other thing is having a clean way of thinking, a clean way to wade through the myriad amounts of information coming from many different sources, some with lots of bias, some with bias, some just a blip. Is it well researched? Just a way to toggle through all of that. And maybe it's coming from a social sciences background, maybe it's a scientific method, maybe it's philosophy undergrad degree or something like that, but just that way to go have all the information and move through it and then be able to cleanly share your findings or share with other people what's come of all of that information. I think that has really helped.
Great, thanks. So for students who might be just starting out in the energy sector for their career, it can seem a bit overwhelming because the energy sector is so big, right? So what kind of advice would you give them about how to get started in finding sort of the right fit or the right place for them within this sector? So let's see, Serena.
Sure. I would say talk to as many people as you can. Duke in particular has an amazing alumni network. If you have not tapped into the Duke Alumni Network, you can search by industry, you can search by profession, you can search by job title, by location, reach out to alumni. I'm open to it. I find that my colleagues and classmates are open to it. Utilize that network and that resource, because I think just hearing about what people do can help you better understand, what an XYZ job actually entails and what it involves. Like I said, I didn't know what I do today was a thing when I was figuring out where I wanted to start my legal career. And so just having the benefit of talks like this, of having, quick coffee breaks with folks who are in the industry, join associations that Anna mentioned earlier, get involved with them. A lot of these organizations have free or reduced price student memberships that will allow you to hear kind of the issues that are cutting edge and that practitioners are really wrestling with. It'll also allow you to keep up to date with developments in the industry and allow you to see the various ways that participants in the industry come together and how their careers and their day-to-day interactions play out. So I would just say, soak up all the information that you can, allow yourself to be open and to not try to squeeze yourself into something too specific too soon. The industry is fast changing. There will be jobs and opportunities and careers 5 years from now that didn't exist today simply by nature of the fact that the technology didn't exist, that the policies didn't exist, that there wasn't the capital support for it today, but it will be down the line. So I would say be open and soak up all you can.
Terrific. And the Duke Alumni Network is fantastic. And if you have not yet met Stacy Peterson, she is the keeper of all the knowledge of where all of our alumni are and can put you in touch with them. She's fantastic. So take advantage of that amazing resource as well. Tabitha.
Okay, 2 pieces of advice. Don't freak out. You're not going to get it wrong. This is not a, choice that you make one decision and you ruined your life. That is not the case. Second piece, if you have multiple decisions or multiple offers, think about exit options. The career you go into tomorrow will likely not be what you do in 2 years from now. Think about, do you want to work there? Is it the way you want to work? And are you somewhat interested in the work? Because there's so many other options and you can find another job. You've got a great name on your resume coming from Duke. So the world is your oyster and don't freak out.
Thank you. Soli.
Yeah, so such a great piece of advice. I think I don't want to add redundant information. I think my 2 pieces of advice would be always negotiate your salary. I don't know how many Nicholas students are there in the room right now. I'm sure the business school students already know this. Okay. Nicholas students, please negotiate your salary. Do not take the first offer. Always push back and see if there's more money on the table. They will certainly not offer it to you on the first go around. So you have to speak up. And then I think, secondly, I would say once you do get the job, like Tabitha said, this is not the end all be all. Like you probably will not stay there for like the next 10 years. Like I don't know a lot of lifers at most companies nowadays, especially if you're a millennial and Gen Z. And so I really would suggest take that first month to not necessarily focus on like, quote unquote, doing your job right, because no one's expecting you to do your job right anyway. Take that first month to really establish relationship. Grab as many one-on-ones and coffee dates as you possibly can. You're probably not going to have time and people won't really be that, I think, open to it, like once you're already a year into your job. So really take that first month to soak in and start building those relationships, because you never know who knows somebody else. Even if it's not immediately obvious why this person might be helpful for you in the future, I think that there's been really countless encounters where I've been able to think back to a conversation that has led to a secondary connection that has been extremely helpful. And so that is my advice.
Anna.
Yeah, I mean, wow, everyone has said absolutely amazing pieces of advice. I think the one thing I'll add, because everything that's been said is so firmly true and valuable, is that as you grow your career, really maintain contact with the people that you've worked with in the past, people you've gone to school with in the past, people you've reached out to for informational interviews that maybe you particularly connected with, especially women. Even just a friendly email or phone call annually to keep that person in your network can prove to be incredibly valuable and fruitful for a number of reasons as you grow your career.
Great. Okay, lightning round. We've got 2 minutes left. So maybe just one example. In your opinion, what are some of the most interesting places or topics, I guess, to work on in the energy sector right now? Or is there an organization that you have your eye on that as being particularly innovative or interesting? This is my lightning round question. Tabitha.
Oh, I'm gonna say Uplight. Like,
Ah!
I know it's cheesy, but we're doing some really cool stuff on that precipice between software and people and energy efficiency. Like, it's so cool. I love it here.
Right. Sully. Plus it's in Denver. That's pretty good too. Sully.
It's not exciting right now because nobody's really doing it. But any company that's doing vehicle to grid type of work, I was interested in it. In grad school, it still hasn't taken off yet. So keep an eye out.
Thanks, Sully. Anna?
I would say grid scale storage solutions are particularly interesting to me and to our company at the time.
Serena, last word.
I'm going to say energy transition because it's so varied. What it looks like in Asia Pacific is different from what it looks like in South America versus what it looks like here in the US. And so it's this combining the world of wires, electricity and pipes, natural gas and oil, and how we bring those two together to deploy the capital in a way that it's going to get us to the type of clean, efficient energy future that we want. And so I think that's really exciting. And it's something that we're kind of developing and creating as we go along. And it will help us get to the future that we all want.
Well, thank you all again for being our panelists. I'm going to invite Katie back up here in a minute to tell us what our next steps are. But I had some of you when you were students here, not all of you, but it's always so much fun for me to see you all grown up and doing really important things. And it's so fun to see you back here. I wish we had you back here in person, but soon. So thank you again for your time. And thanks to everybody who came here and on Zoom. And without further ado, back to Katie as we dance.
Thank you all. Let's just take a minute and say thank you to Lori and to our panelists. Before we wrap up, the second part of our program is intentionally networking. So for all of you who are in the room, please stick around. I'll give you more specific instructions. I hope that you students will find someone maybe who's not in your program, who's in a different program here on campus. Maybe you'll find one of our alums who's come today to chat with, because you heard from our panelists just how important networking and building that supportive network is. For all of you who are online, the same is true. So we have a great, for those of you who are alumni, we have a Duke University Energy Network group on LinkedIn, which is a great resource. There are, as Anna mentioned, several groups that are focused specifically on women in energy, women in climate tech, women in clean tech and sustainability. Hope that you will take this inspiration and go out and join, look for those supportive networks, look for those allies, look for those folks who can help you advance your own careers. And we look forward to seeing you at more events in the future. Thank you for being here.